Next.
So glad that you're here with us online. I'm your host, Anita Blanton, and I will be with you through 4 p.m. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on, what we've lined up for this first hour that we have here together. You will see a lot of people wearing red today, and it is to raise awareness about matters of the heart, as I like to say, even more specifically about women's health. As we go red for women today, I'm honored that the executive director of the Chicago chapter of the American Heart Association is going to be joining me a little bit later on in the hour. This is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and so I hope that we will share some information that could help you or maybe someone you know or love. Again, that will be a little bit later on in the hour. It's also a big weekend at the largest convention center in North America. Our own Scott Schneider is going to be joining me from McCormick Place with all of the excitement that is brimming, the new Hot Wheels to see there for the auto show. That's a little bit later on as well. And then Valentine's is right around the corner. So it is not surprising, really, that we as humans may not be the only ones looking for love. I'm going to be talking with a professor of wildlife ecology about the urban coyotes that have been roaming around, and people have been getting their snapshots throughout the week, some very popular pictures and videos that are making the rounds right now. But first, a moment of transition, symbolism, and tradition at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, as Bishop Ronald Hicks, the former Bishop of Joliet, Illinois, born in Harvey, raised in South Holland, will be installed momentarily as the new Archbishop of New York, serving nearly 3 million people in the Catholic Church here. You can see the program has just begun here as many of the clergy leaders are making their way in. They do the procession in 3 installments here. The honored guests, then the congregation leadership, and then the bishops come behind them before they begin the mass that will happen to install him. Yesterday we were looking at the Vesper service that he was doing a reading for last night, but today is the big day here. If we kind of go back, I mentioned again that he was born in Harvey, and that was in 1967, graduated from Niles College Seminary, earned a philosophy degree from Loyola University, Chicago, went on to study at the University of St. Mary of the Lake and Mundelein Seminary. He also taught there as a faculty member, completed a Doctor of Ministry degree there as well. He was ordained a priest for the Archdiocese of Chicago, May 21st, 1994, and then spent his early years in parish ministry, and later went on to the St. Joseph College Seminary as well. You may hear at times, as we did last night, some parts that will be fully in Spanish. He spent from 2005 to 2009, moving around Central America to lead Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos. That is a charity that cares for orphaned and abandoned children across Latin America. There he is right there. There he is right there, Archbishop Designate Ronald Hicks. Again, from right here in Illinois, and more specifically in the Chicagoland area. So he returned to Chicago, resumed some seminary leadership, later appointed the Vicar General in 2015. The Archdiocese top administrative role after the Archbishop, and then Pope Francis named him an auxiliary bishop in 2018, where he became Bishop of the Joliet in 2020. So what a moment here that all ties back to our area here. The Mass, again, is going to start with a reading from the Pope, who, of course, came from our area as well. And the letter is going to be officially appointing Archbishop Designate Ronald Hicks as the Archbishop of New York. Hicks will then be invited to sit in the Archbishop's chair, referred to as the cathedra. And after sitting down, he will be greeted by the different clergy leaders who are there. Look at him, big smile as he makes his way through. I mean, I always think of these moments and you're like, what is going through your mind in this type of moment? Such a life moment, a life marker, and a life changer for you as you are now leading nearly 3 million people in the Catholic Church. What an awesome opportunity. Hicks is going to give the homily and then proceed with the Mass from there. And so it's just a great time, a great time and a moment in history, of course, because he is taking over for Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who was retiring at the age of 75. And it took a little while. He already sent his letter in for retirement, and that is a requirement when you hit 75. He had already sent his letter in. But because of the health of the former pope, he had to wait a little bit longer for a new pope to be installed. And so now that a new pope has been installed, he formally accepted the retirement of Timothy Dolan, and now we have this transition moving forward with Archbishop Designate Ronald Hicks. Now that he's made his way forward, let's listen in.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Peace be with you.
Well, beautiful music there as they begin the service again to officially install Archbishop designate Ronald Hicks there for the Archdiocese of New York. And what a moment there. We're going to pop in. This will be going on for a while. The Mass that is taking place at St. Patrick's Cathedral. So we'll pop back in if we have the opportunity. It's just a great chance to see history and progress and to see again this moment that does tie back to our area after all. It's 1:12 though, and we're going to move on with our conversations here. Some people have started to see viral videos. They've gone far and wide already of more urban coyotes in our area, but they've been popping up in some interesting places. And so I want to go ahead and bring in Stanley Gert. He is a professor of wildlife ecology and extension wildlife specialist at the School of Environment and Natural Resources for The Ohio State University. Thank you for joining me. I think you might be on mute. It could be on our end. We're checking
It's
to
on
see.
your end, I
Okay,
believe.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right, wonderful. So I hope you like I put the on the Ohio State. Tell me a little bit about the sightings that we have started to get. Why do you think we are seeing them right now?
Well, there's a number of reasons for that. So, one is the time of year. It turns out that February is the peak mating period for coyotes in Chicago.
Oh.
So, their hormones are at their highest level at the moment. They only breed once a year, and it is this month, and it actually coincides the peak with Valentine's Day, and that's not a joke, that's for real. And so they're more active because of that. And also their cover this time of year, the vegetation is down, there's snow on the ground, or at least there's a lot less cover for them to hide behind. So they're more active, they're under less cover, so they're more visible.
And we've had these sightings around Montrose Beach with a lot of people taking their dogs there. Why would you think they'd be around Montrose Beach? And what would you tell people who regularly maybe let their dogs off leash in that area?
Sure. Well, it's not surprising that they're there because what we have found is that coyotes are pretty much found throughout the Chicago region. Downtown Chicago, Navy Pier has coyotes on it. It's just that they're, again, more visible right now. And so for people with dogs, the most important thing is to keep dogs on leash so that they don't chase a coyote. And if they're a small dog, if a coyote is for some reason approaching, pick the dog up and walk away with the dog.
How concerning should it be? Or is it just like, hey, it's nature?
I think it's just something to be aware of so that you don't put your dog or yourself in a bad situation. But in most cases, the vast majority of cases, the coyotes, even though they're in this mating period right now, they still usually try to avoid people and avoid dogs if the dogs are close to people. So it's still working in our favor, but we still need to be aware of it and take some precautions at least for the time period.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean, there's caring for your pet, caring for yourself. Are there times that a coyote would be more volatile than other?
Not really. I mean, so this is the one of the two periods where they may be a little bit more aggressive than normal. Again, most of them are not, but some of them might be. The other time of the year is in 2 months. That's when they will actually have their litters, and they will be protective of that den area. And so that is the only time when they really become aggressive. And so that isn't yet. So again, in most cases, you just need to be aware of them, and also the important thing is don't feed them. So that usually leads kind of to a more aggressive behavior later down the road.
All right. You said they're doing some mating right now, but in 2 months they're going to have litters?
Right, they're just like dogs in that event. So they are pregnant for 2 months, and then they will have their litter.
That's so fast.
It is. It is fast. But then they're going to nurse them for about 4 to 5 weeks, which, again, for a human is still pretty fast. If you think about the poor mothers that have to take care of those babies.
Yeah. How many urban coyotes do you think we have in this area?
Well, we estimate that in the Cook County region, so that's the city plus the suburbs, between 2 and maybe 4,000 animals.
Wow. And is that like a healthy number for them? Has it been more in the past? Does the continued development decrease those numbers? Like, what are we looking like?
It's a pretty stable population right now. So about uh, 20 to 20 to 10 years ago, or 10 to 20 years ago, the population was still increasing. And now it's in the last 10 years, it's reached a plateau and it's not increasing, it's staying about the same level from year to year. So it's a healthy population, but coyotes control their own numbers. They're unlike other wildlife species, and so they won't exceed a certain number in a given area. They control their own numbers.
How does that work?
Well, it's tricky. So a couple of different ways. So one, the females will reduce their litter size. So the number of young that they produce, they'll drop them when the density becomes at a certain level.
But how
And
do they
then also,
know? How do they know, like, hey, they're getting a little thin over there. I need to ramp things up, or like, hey, it's not your time right now.
it's a hormonal thing, so it kind of stimulates them to either they usually produce the same number of eggs, but they don't all come to fruition, if you know what I mean. So that's a hormonal thing during the development, and then the other way that they control it is that first of all they're territorial, so they in only the alpha pair breeds. So only one pair per group or territory will have a litter. So all of the other coyotes that live in that group do not mate. They do not reproduce. And so it's another way that they control their numbers.
I What else do you think would like shock us, or that most of us don't know about them? Because that has to be up there.
It's up there. So they're also extremely monogamous. Your Chicago coyotes, we found that that alpha pair, they form this bond and they keep that bond for the rest of their life.
Oh.
They don't cheat. They do not cheat, which is another reason why they tend to be either defensive or aggressive, depending on your perspective, toward dogs during this time of year, because they're bonded with their mate and they aren't going to tolerate any competitors for that. And sometimes they'll see a dog as a potential competitor
Oh.
for their mate, which is one reason why they're defensive or aggressive, depending on your perspective. So the monogamy was a complete surprise to us, but we've tested that genetically, tested for cheating. And unlike other species, pretty much throughout the natural world, coyotes don't cheat.
Can we have people tested for monogamy too? Like, what kind of testing is this? We might need this as humans.
Right. It's the same kind of testing. Same kind of testing we use to catch cheaters for us. We do that for coyotes too. And so that was totally surprising to us. We thought if the coyotes are so flexible and so adaptive in their behavior, that's why they're in Chicago in the first place, is because they kind of make their own rules as they go along. But that's one rule that they don't break, that they may have maintained everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Why do you think we are so fascinated with them?
Well, I think that they are the top kind of mammalian carnivore or predator that we have in this city, so we don't have many other kinds of examples. I think that's that makes them fairly unique. So that's one reason. Second reason is they do remind us of our dogs, and we're fascinated by them. Only they're not our pets. They're doing their own thing out there. And the things that we're learning about them is that they're really complex and that they have this really highly organized social system, unlike our dogs.
And so, we talk about dogs, we talk about the coyotes, and a lot of people get mixed up between coyotes, foxes, and wolves. What are the comparisons or the differences between them?
All right, so foxes, we have red foxes and gray foxes. They're quite a bit smaller than coyotes. And we don't have that many in Chicago. So we used to. 30 years ago, they were very common, but when coyotes moved in, the foxes tended to disappear.
Oh.
So, but they physically look different than the coyotes, just in terms of their smaller size. And of course, red foxes are red, and the gray foxes have these really striking markings. And then wolves are so much larger than coyotes. I mean, coyotes are truly in the middle of that, what we call the canid family or the dog family. And wolves are so much larger than coyotes. People don't realize coyotes are only about a third of the size of your average wolf.
And how is it that they can both harm a dog, or I mean, are they, when they're harming a dog, or if we think of them harming a dog, is it because they see them as the competition, like you said, or is it like they see them as dinner? I mean, what is it?
Right, that's a great question. It's because of competition. So they're not, if they do attack a dog, it's not because they're attempting to eat it. It's an instinct to remove a competitor. So they do the same thing with foxes. So in the natural world, foxes are a competitor, and so they do tend to remove foxes if they encounter them. And then wolves do the same thing to coyotes. So wolves remove coyotes because they see them as a competitor. So that's kind of the rule in that dog family, is that the bigger dog removes the smaller dog.
Oh, and do we have wolves around here?
We don't. There are wolves in Wisconsin. That's the closest population. And we do occasionally get stragglers that move into Illinois from that Wisconsin population. But as of yet, we have not had any wolves actually make it into the Chicago metro area.
What takes out the wolf?
People.
I'll stop the questions there. Well, how did you get into researching all of this? Like, what made you want to find out more and more to this level?
Well, it started, so I was a research biologist in Chicago, working on urban wildlife species like raccoons and skunks. And then in the late 1990s, coyotes began emerging, just appearing in parts of the Chicago metro area. And so it actually began with Cook County Animal Control contacting me, asking me, where they're getting reports of these coyotes coming out of nowhere. What are we supposed to do? I said, well, no one knows. This is a new phenomenon. So way back in 2000, Animal Control asked me to begin a study to see what's going on with these coyotes in Chicago. And so we began the study then, and it was supposed to be a really short 1 year study because we assumed there was no coyotes here. I mean, the whatever coyotes people were seeing were temporary and they were just passing through or getting squashed on the roads. But it turns out we were wrong back then, and we've been learning about them ever since.
Wow. Wow. I mean, here we are 26 years later. Yeah. And we get these sightings from time to time. Everybody goes crazy about them. And again, we see all of these viral videos. It really is amazing. And I think especially for urban areas, like, I don't know if you would feel the same if you lived out in, in a rural area, but for an urban area, you really just don't think of wildlife until it's like right there.
No, absolutely. No, in fact, the whole idea of an urban coyote prior to 20 years ago, that didn't occur. That just didn't exist. But now they do, and we're still learning. We're still learning, what does this mean to have coyotes living among us? And coyotes are still learning from us on how to live here. So it's kind of a mutual learning experience for both species.
Yeah, well, maybe our species can learn how not to cheat. I'm playing.
Well, they should watch Coyotes then.
We'll learn from them about that. Where they can learn from us about something, I'm sure. Great chatting with you today. Really interesting stuff. And when do you think, like, is there a time period when, okay, we're going to see a lot, but then a time period when we won't see as many?
Yeah, it'll drop off. It'll start dropping off in March and April. April is when they have those young, and they really try and stay hidden during that time if they can. And then they stay hidden pretty much for the rest of the year, for the most part. It's hard, when you're living among 9 million people
Yeah.
in the larger metro area or 5 million in Chicago. It's hard to stay hidden altogether. So people need to give them grace a little bit. If not every time you see a coyote is it something to be alarmed about, because it's kind of hard for them to do their job without getting seen by people.
Do their job, meaning, yeah, their
job. I mean, most of the time there's the mating, but most of the time they're actually doing a lot of things to help us. They're mainly eating rodents and squirrels and rabbits, things that we consider to be pests.
Okay. Learn something new every day, and you've given us several things today. Thanks so much. Great chatting with you.
You bet. No problem.
Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. You too.
Okay. 1:28, everybody. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. 1:30 right now, and the 118th Chicago Auto Show is right here. It's amazing that we've come to this part in the year already. It seems like it's come so quickly, but there at McCormick Place, things are buzzing. And so we had to send over our resident auto junkie from our station to check it out. Scott Schneider is joining me right now. Scott, tell me where you are, because I know you've been moving around the floor already, and what you're finding.
Oh, Anita, I'd love to be talking to you live from McCormick Place. You did mention the word junkie. Yes, I'm a car lover since I was, knee high. And I've been coming out here year after year. And every year that I come out here, Anita, I'm in pursuit of what's trending. But this year is very special. It's very special to me because this year I'm in pursuit of what's timeless. And I really have to tip my cap to the folks at the Chicago Auto Show. This is Jim O'Brill, by the way. He is the Senior Director of Marketing and Strategy. And Jim, I'm going to get you with you in just 1 minute, because I just want to preface this by saying auto shows, not just here in Chicago, LA, New York, Detroit, they've been getting smaller over the years. So what do you do with all this magnificent space? They've done something ingenious here in Chicago. What they've done is they've given a huge swath of the floor to car lovers, and in particular, Chicago car lovers. They are embracing car culture here, and it is playing out with Chi-Town Alley. Now, Jim, Jeff Wyris, our cameraman, is getting a shot at one of many Chicago car clubs here, but you've decided to feature this particular car club. Tell our folks at home what we're looking at here.
Yeah, right now what you're looking at are the team from O'Reilly Car Club. This is a group of local lowrider clubs, so these are all local-owned vehicles. This group kind of cultivated a nice collection of these vehicles. It's really cool to see how all these cars come to life. These are all, like, there's a lot of passion in these vehicles. These people have built these cars from the ground up. I know they're going to showcase some of the tricks that these cars in particular can do later. So it's really cool to see these Buick Regals, these old Impalas, Cadillacs. There's an old Ranger here. So a lot of cool stuff in this exhibit as well, but we've invited several clubs. There's the Northern Mustang Corral here as well, so if you like the old pony cars and the old Mustangs, we've got that here as well. And then you go to the other side of Chi-Town Alley, we've got a whole different mix of car clubs here in Chi-Town Alley.
Yeah, and talk to me a little bit about the idea, the genesis of, you know, so many cars. I admit I have a brand new car. It's a computer on wheels.
Yes.
But I have such an affinity in my heart for old school, for the combustion engine, for cars, even cars that, you know, hand cranks on the sunroof and on the windows. Where did you guys come up with the idea to celebrate? There's no such thing as old cars. These are classics. Where did it come from?
So, like yourself, like, I've always been a car kid. I grew up coming to the show. I enjoy these old cars. Social media has really taken off in kind of highlighting these old cars. I do it myself, and I go to these car shows and cruise nights all the time. It's like, you know, we have an opportunity here to utilize some of this extra space we have. I've been to some of these bigger events like SEMA in Las Vegas. I was like, why don't we bring a little of that to Chicago? Chicago has a car community. They have car culture. Let's tap into it and bring it to Chicago. And so that's what we're doing. Right behind us is our showcase circle. So we ran a contest. We launched it in November. We invited all Chicago Auto Show fans to submit a 1-minute video of their vehicle and tell us why they thought their vehicle should be on display in the Chicago Auto Show.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I want to encourage our viewers to join us at 4 o'clock and at 5 o'clock. We're going to be getting more into the competition. Particularly at 5, we're going to actually meet a young man who brought back this BMW, and it was a labor of love with his father. Actually, this is a family affair that started with their grandfather. This is a 1974 2002 BMW. If you know anything about this make and model, this is really the precursor to the 3 Series. When you talk about the ultimate driving machine, this is the car that a lot of people attach that branding to. But let's talk about these 6 finalists. My understanding is you had dozens of entries, right?
We actually had over 50 entries. We were going to select 3 cars for the showcase. We couldn't choose just 3, so we chose 6. And we tried to pick 6 very unique cars that celebrate different eras of the culture, from European imports to the Japanese domestic cars like this Skyline. I know Alan here drives this blue Skyline.
Yeah.
He drifts this car.
It's a drifter.
He
I
sent
love
us
that
videos.
there's a drifter here.
You can see videos of this car drifting. Follow him on Instagram. You've got this nice 90s Toyota MR2. And then you see something like this. This is a very modern car. You talk about buying a new car. This is the new Acura Integra. And Ryan's taken this and made it his own. And you can still do that with new cars. It doesn't just have to be an old car, which is why I think this is a great one to celebrate in the showcase as well.
Yeah, I understand on this Camaro, this is almost like a brand new car off the showroom floor, right?
Essentially.
Very few miles on it, right?
Yeah, this one is essentially a time machine from 1991. It is pristine, low miles, basically off the, like you said, the dealer room showroom. Another reason to celebrate the fact that they've kept this car in such great shape, and why not showcase it here?
So the great part about the contest is, if you're coming down to McCormick, of course it's Super Bowl weekend, so if you don't make it down this weekend, there's plenty of time to come down. The contest lasts the duration of the auto show, correct?
Correct. So all these cars obviously won the chance to be here, but you can vote for your favorite among this 6 while you're at the show. Last day of the show, we're going to crown a showcase vehicle of the year. We're going to give them a plaque and all the accolades. Although I think all these guys are just thrilled to be here.
Yeah.
Being here and being in the presence of the Chicago Auto Show and having their car on display has been quite an accomplishment for all of them, I think.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that there are, if you're one of those people who loves, the hot rods, in our 4 o'clock hour, you and I are going to be in Supercar Alley. And I do think you guys did a really nice job of bringing in some of the high-end cars, because we can all dream, right?
Of course. And there's a lot of really cool Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, Bentleys. There's a $775,000 Lamborghini over there that is worth a second look.
That's Anita Blanton money. And just real quick, because again, I came down here, I didn't know what to expect. I went online, I saw that you had Chi-Town Alley, but you don't really appreciate it till you get down here. Is this something we might see going forward in the years to come?
I think so. The buzz on the show floor about this space has been very positive. Just today with media, we've brought in a couple celebrities. Actually, the movie Drifter is coming out, is celebrating kind of that side of the car culture. We've got a JDM import club here. Everyone's been so excited about it, and so I can only see this area of the show growing. I think we can tie in manufacturers as well. They're building cars like this to showcase. They can have displays in this area as well.
Okay, so Anita, I don't know if anything sticks out for you.
Scott,
can I wrap anything up for you?
Listen, right in front of you, that Camaro, it reminds me of my car
Yes.
from high school. I had a white, late 80s model Trans Am with the T-tops. And so I'm looking at this and I'm just like looking at memories right in front of you. I don't think mine was as clean, or showroom clean as that one, but it's giving me memories.
But isn't that the great thing about cars? There's such an expression of who we are personally. And when we see cars, whether you're driving into work or wherever you're going, maybe one that you had, there's such nostalgia there, a longing for the past. I love that you had a Camaro with T-tops. I've been in those cars. They're so much fun to drive. You hear the engine. And I was talking to Ryder, the guy behind this BMW, who you're going to meet later tonight. And that was one of the things he told me about when he was working on this car for years. He said, Scott, the thing about working on an older car is you have to listen to it. It talks to you. And that's one of the things I love about these classic cars. So come on down to McCormick. Again, look at the new stuff, and there's so many great cars you can get into. I got into a Corvette, absolutely gorgeous. So of course do that. But come on down and check out the cool older cars. Some of us that are old, we appreciate this stuff.
They have a bit more of a story to tell for sure. Now, you mentioned getting a new car. Were you influenced by anything there?
So, you know what? It's funny that you say that. Last year, I was here, and the narrative was electric. So I will say I was I was nudged a little bit into that sector. And I have no regrets. I mean, I love my car, and I love that I don't have to go to the gas pump. And I don't know what's going to happen going forward with EVs. I don't think they're going to go away, but I think maybe we're hitting the pause button on it. And I think when you're here, hybrids are probably more of where people are looking right now. And let's be honest, the prices have to come down. I think if you look at survey after survey, most customers will tell you that $50,000 range, which is what the average is for a new car in 2025, 2026, that's got to come down a little. People are holding on to their cars a little bit longer. But we'll see. The great thing, the reason I call this place Candyland is that if you are starting to think about shopping for a car, this is why you want to come down here to McCormick, because it's Christmas in February. It always is. It always gets me excited. I feel like a little kid. I really encourage you to come down here, because there's rather than go from dealership to dealership, which is fine, it's one-stop shopping. It's perfect.
Do they match you with a local dealer if you find something there?
She's asking you a good question. Do they match you with a local dealer if you come down here?
There's a lot of the different booths will absolutely take your information and then connect you with the dealer closest to your home if that's of interest to you.
That. I didn't
you don't
even know
have to,
that.
though. If you want that connection, they will make it happen.
Super
you can learn
cool.
something new when you come down to McCormick. How about that?
Super cool. Now, listen, they had to cut my mic. I was laughing so hard when you said that's Anita Blanton money, and they were talking about something for $700 and whatever $100,000. But have you seen?
What was the $700,000 car?
The Lamborghini Revuelto.
Yeah, the Lambo. We're going to show that one a little later, Anita. So I'm going to be thinking about you when we're talking about that one.
Only if I can get my loan from you.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Do you have a dream car that you're hoping to see out there?
Well, I've always loved, he mentioned the Mustang, the Pony Club. I've had several Mustangs in my life. I've always liked the GT 500, always been one of my favorites. I love any American muscle car. I got to be honest with you. I love American muscle. So that's probably where I would lean. If I could write a blank check, yeah, that's probably what I would get. Maybe a Shelby, something really, really fun and has a good guttural sound when you gun it, something like that.
Okay, give us the rudimentary information. When can people go out? How long is it going to be going on? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Give the folks at home, just for housekeeping,
Sure.
How long is the show running? What do you want folks at home to know?
The show is open until February 16th, President's Day. Opens every day at 10 a.m., generally close at 9 o'clock every night. All the information you need is available at ChicagoAutoShow.com. You can buy your tickets there. You can find information about parking. We do close a little bit early for Super Bowl Sunday, but otherwise open at 10 a.m. every day.
No excuses, Anita Blanton. Come on down.
Oh, I have a few excuses, but but thank you so much, Scott, for giving us a show around, especially with Chi-Town Alley. That's super cool stuff right there.
It's so awesome. You got to come down here. It's fantastic.
All right, we'll see you at 4 o'clock. 1:43 right now. It's really awesome that they're able to think outside the box to expand. Even if there's maybe less interest in one particular thing, or if some of the auto shows are getting smaller, to think bigger as to how to bring people there by going back in time. A lot of people like those classic cars. All right, let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. 1:45 right now, and boy, is this part of our show so important. And this is a part that could literally change or save lives. Today is National Wear Red Day. We are going red for women, raising awareness about heart health. We want to keep our sisters around for a very long time, and so I'm super happy to have Brittany Walsh, the Chicago American Heart Association Executive Director, with me right now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Happy Wear Red Day.
Happy Wear Red Day. I think this is just such a critical element, when it comes to matters of the heart, such a critical element, of course, to life, but one that can kind of get overlooked, and people maybe think that you have an issue for something else, and it all links back to what's going on with your heart.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we find that, many women don't realize or understand their risks of heart disease. And to your point, it can be really easy to have it in the back of your mind. But we know that heart disease is the #1 killer of women. And we need all women to understand their risks and really understand steps to take, like knowing their numbers, making sure that we're exercising and eating right, to lower our risk and save ourselves, but also, to your point, the women in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those topics that should be of importance to everyone, male and female, because you have a good woman in your life some kind of way and you want to keep her around. Is it surprising to you that it is still the top killer of women?
It is and it isn't. Certainly it every day while I'm at work, I think, gosh, how is this still affecting so many women? We're working so hard on this every day. But I also know how easy it is as a woman to know that it can be easy to put yourself last and to not prioritize your health. As a working mom of 2, I'm certainly right there with everyone of knowing that I need to prioritize myself for my health. But sometimes those, on your to-do list go to the top, even though your health may go to the bottom, and we need to switch that.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup,
Exactly.
We have to make sure we're okay before we're helping other people. I come from a family, both of my grandmothers suffered from heart disease. One that was born with a heart condition, a congenital heart condition, and so she suffered from many strokes throughout her life. And another that really was in a weight loss journey, that had quite the setback with a weight loss drug that caused her to have a stroke and aneurysm, and it changed her life. So when I see that we come back around to Wear Red Day each year, I just see there's so many different reasons why a woman could end up in a tough situation when it comes to her heart.
Absolutely. I mean, even myself, my personal story, I actually dealt with preeclampsia after giving birth to my first son, which is preeclampsia is a pregnancy complication dealing with high blood pressure, and that was something that was a bit of a surprise to me. I hadn't dealt with high blood pressure before that, and that's why, we really want to make sure that women take charge of their health, because in this case with preeclampsia, it really can have, cause death. It can cause damage to your liver and your kidneys, and many pregnant women, to your point, all these generations are dealing with heart disease. And for me, that was something that, gosh, because of the American Heart Association, was on my radar, but it easily might not have been.
Yeah, and sometimes people might just think like, oh, I have, indigestion, or I might have, a stomach ache or something like that. Like, our symptoms can be very different from men.
Yes. So things to look for, especially in women, of course, still chest pain, but shortness of breath, fatigue, feeling nauseous, jaw pain even. And oftentimes we tell women to think about it in a way of, if usually you can walk a block and not be short of breath, but all of a sudden now you are, notice that change. Make sure that you're aware and say, that's different. I need to pay attention to this, because oftentimes those are the things that you need to clue into to know that something more serious is happening.
Yeah, and how quickly you need to act when something serious is happening. Talk a little bit about that. When we say knowing your numbers, what are we talking about, and what do people need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say knowing your numbers, that's going to be things like your blood pressure. It's going to be your cholesterol. It's going to be your blood sugar. It's going to be your body mass index. Those are really the things that you want to be able to understand. And, we share, make sure that you're meeting with your doctor. Make sure that you're understanding your family history too when you go into that doctor's appointment, and getting those numbers and have a conversation with them. Also, go to heart.org, the American Heart Association's website, to really understand what are the specific numbers that you need to be watching out for, really understand them, and that will go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of things going a long way, one of the things that I appreciated, in hindsight, looking back on my grandmother's life, who had the congenital heart disease, was that her doctors, when she was young, told her parents, like, take her out of school. This was in kindergarten. Told her, take her out of school. She won't make it to first grade. She went on to be the valedictorian of her high school class, had multiple pregnancies, lived a full life, and towards the end of her life, got a pacemaker that doctors were able to check remotely. And so it's like, to see medicine come that far. I know it has to really hit you all, hard when you see just how much has happened over time to allow people to live longer, fuller lives.
Yeah, that's an incredible story that you just shared. I'm so glad. That makes my heart happy. And, that's why it's so important to make sure that you are funding organizations like the American Heart Association, because, to your point, that really allows us to make sure that those advancements can continue. There are so many stories that we hear every single day, that are very similar to exactly what you shared, and are just so powerful and inspiring, and show that, when we are able to fund the best work that we can to improve medicine, and then also when we educate people and make sure they're aware, we have stories just like your grandmother, who go on to do incredible things in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. We want more of those stories, more survivor stories all around. What are some things that you all will be doing either today, this weekend, or even throughout the year to help raise awareness and funds throughout the year?
Yes, absolutely. So we have our Go Red for Women movement, and this is a year-long movement that is all about celebrating women, educating women. We have a luncheon that's coming up, the Go Red for Women luncheon, next Friday. So we'll be coming together with 600 of our best friends to raise awareness around women and heart disease. And throughout the year, we have activities planned. And today is also one of those special days of National Wear Red Day, doing things like this, making sure that women know their risks and the opportunities that they have when they take actions around their health.
Yeah, we talk a lot about things from a national perspective. What are some things you'd like to drive home about cardiovascular disease or heart health here in Chicago specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really proud that we have a team of volunteers and staff that are inside of all of our communities. We focus on our under-resourced communities, making sure that we can improve access to care and access to quality care. We also are in and working with all of our health systems, right? Making sure that everyone is receiving the best care. Things that I love to see are our blood pressure hubs that are in our communities. Also working on hands-only CPR training in our communities here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Great things that are always happening, both today and throughout the year. Brittany, thank you so much for joining me, chatting for just a bit about this important topic and what we can all do better to keep, again, our sisters around for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Go Red. It's 1:56, everyone. Give us a couple minutes and then I'll set you up for where we're going in terms of conversations for our 2 o'clock hour. right, everyone. It's 1:58, and so while we have just a couple minutes before the 2 o'clock hour begins, the Archbishop designate, Ronald Hicks, was speaking just a moment ago. Oh, maybe the commercial break took a little too long. He was speaking. We were going to try to listen into just a bit of what he was saying there, but again, this mass officially installing him is continuing on there in New York City. Just a great moment there at St. Patrick's Cathedral for someone who was born in Harvey and raised in South Holland, and now we get to see him taking the reins as the Archbishop of New York. This is a moment right here.
Nosotros presentamos ante él nuestras necesidades.
Por el Papa León, por nuestro pastor, el arzobispo Ronald Hicks, por el cardenal Timothy Dolan, por todo el clero, los religiosos y los laicos, para que sean santos y eficaces en su misión de atraer a todas las personas a Cristo. Roguemos al Señor. For peace among and within nations, and for those suffering in war-torn lands, we pray to the Lord. Por los más vulnerables entre nosotros, los que no han nacido, los niños, los ancianos frágiles, los refugiados, inmigrantes y todos aquellos que dependen del amor y la ayuda de los demás, para que se beneficien del cuidado compasivo de quienes siguen a Cristo, roguemos al Señor. For those who are being called by God to serve Him in the priesthood and religious life, that they may respond with generosity and with loving hearts, we pray to the Lord. Por los enfermos y por quienes sufren en cuerpo y alma, roguemos al Señor. For the departed, that they may find eternal happiness in the home God has prepared for them, and that we may be reunited with them for all eternity. We pray to the Lord.
Heavenly Father, we ask these things, Padre Celestial, te lo pedimos por medio de Jesucristo, nuestro Señor.
Nos unimos cantando.
Ronald Hicks, the former Bishop of Joliet, being formally installed as the Archbishop of New York. Again, this Mass is continuing on, but we'll proceed on with our conversations, and we'll take another live look whenever we can as it continues on. But we want to bring you back here to Chicagoland and new efforts to protect those who are in situations that could quite literally take their lives. I want to bring in State Senator John Curran, a Republican from Downers Grove, who is a part of an effort here to get a legislative package across, ramping up penalties for domestic abusers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Very nice to be with you.
I think that this topic is just so critical. And what made you want to address this specifically?
Well, it's the rapid rise in deaths that we have seen over the past couple of years related to domestic violence. Since 2022, we've had a 140% increase in Illinois in homicides related to domestic violence. So that is that is certainly an acute problem that is screaming for help, screaming for attention, and ultimately solutions. And the legislature should be focused on this.
Mm-hmm. Tell us some of the things in this legislation that you're hoping will really resonate with people.
Well, really, we're trying to strengthen tools that are already in place, which is orders of protection, no contact orders, addressing things, once domestic violence and violence against someone in a domestic relationship is identified, those types of orders need to have teeth in place, or there's never going to be safety for the victim. So those are some of the proposals that have been put forward, really in trying to make sure we have cooling off periods to give a victim an opportunity to get the medical attention they need, to get the legal attention they need, and to get a break and try to break the cycle of violence.
Yeah, we have heard so many instances of women who are no longer with us, who had protective orders, and it does make people think, like, what is the use of this if it didn't keep the person around?
And we had testimony yesterday from a brave victim who talked about the repeated phone calls to the police, in upwards of 20 phone calls over time, trying to get away from her abuser, trying to have that order of protection that she had actually enforced. So, our legislative proposals are centered on that, also elevating the criminal penalties for domestic violence itself. This oftentimes leads to tragic results. And, my legislation is focused on the bail statute. I was a prosecutor in Cook County, so I know firsthand not just the physical toll that domestic violence takes on victims, but also the amount of effort and time it takes to recover emotionally, physically, health-wise, and to get into the legal system is daunting. So we have got to help these victims. My legislation seeks to focus on shifting the burden. Stop putting the burden on the victim in the criminal justice system. The burden should be rightfully placed on the offender to show that they are no longer a threat to the victim or to society.
Yeah, and a part of that in and of itself takes time. You can't go into a program or even into a jail or a prison and a couple of days later you're reformed. So you're looking at, like, okay, a violation of a court order shouldn't be a misdemeanor.
No, it should not be. If we expect a violation of an order, once you're in the system and a judge has determined that you pose a danger to a loved one, a former loved one, that needs to have teeth to it. And that is certainly something that should be a felony if you're going to knowingly violate that order. It should not be to have it as a misdemeanor. The analogy yesterday, it was the same as stealing something from a grocery store. That's not right. So the empirical evidence shows us that we are not capturing the attention of abusers and getting them to stop the cycle of violence. We need to toughen and stiffen penalties and the enforcement mechanisms around it to actually protect the victims of domestic violence.
And many would say that getting a handle of situations, especially of repeated domestic abuse, also affects the statistics for many other crimes as well.
It does, and people, once you're in this pattern, clearly showing no respect for the rule of law, no respect for the judicial system and what you're being ordered not to do, really what is off the table at that point. So this is about time that the legislature needs to focus in on this. I would surmise this is the most acute problem we have right now in our criminal justice system, is a lack of focus and attention on victims of domestic violence.
Yeah, you hear it from law enforcement officers quite frequently, just about the number of times they may have to visit a particular home, for domestic violence, and how that goes further to many other things. What kind of support are you getting?
Discussions so far have been good. We're getting support from some victims groups. This is ongoing conversations in the Senate. I've discussed this package of proposals, and there are other out there. I think those death statistics have alarmed a lot of legislators. So there are other proposals out there too, but I've had preliminary discussions with the committee chair, the Criminal Law Committee in the Senate, and we need to make sure we talk and vet these. We invite law enforcement in on the conversation, as well as victims groups representing the victims of domestic violence, and come up with targeted solutions that are going to empower victims and give them the space, the security, and the time they need to heal and move forward.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that this issue is, like worse post-pandemic, like pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic?
Well, I mean, the statistics will point us to that the issue is worse post-pandemic. How that's related, I wouldn't be the person qualified for that, but the stats are alarming. Deaths rising related to domestic violence. It's a troubling trend. We did pass Karina's Law last year. That is being implemented now. That's another tool, I think, in law enforcement's toolbox. But we need to ensure that orders of protection are actually followed, that victims can actually rely on them for safety and security. And if they are not followed, the penalties need to be severe, harsh, and immediate.
Mm-hmm. And give us the background on that. If I remember, that was a young man who championed a law in his mother's name, who had been killed in front of him. Was that correct? Senator Curran, are you there? All right, we may have lost his connection there, and I hate that, because I again just think that this is one of those conversations that really shouldn't be a partisan issue, trying to help women who are and men. Let me be clear, women and men who are caught in cycles of abuse by someone that should maybe be in either treatment or behind bars for extended periods of time, but there are so many different loopholes in the system that allow them to go round and round and round, unfortunately, until in many cases someone loses their life. So we'll continue to follow where they go with this legislation. After seeing a 140% jump in domestic violence related deaths since 2022. That's not even counting all of the people who may be in near-death situations, but a 140% jump in domestic-related deaths since 2022. So maybe this could prevent someone, some man, some woman, from going through the same in the future. We will see where this goes during their legislative time. It's 2:12, though. Give us 2 minutes, and we'll come back and move forward from there.
Is there a window?
Welcome back, everyone. 2:17 right now. And before we went to break, I was speaking with State Senator John Curran from Downers Grove. We had a little connection issue, but he's back with me. And Senator Curran, you said that, we're at a crisis point right now for domestic violence. You've proposed this legislative package. What happens now? Like, what is the timeline? Walk us through, once you've introduced legislation, what happens?
So we're in the spring legislative session now. We returned for the governor's budget address on February 18th, and committee work is going to be robust at once we get back here in mid-February. So my hope is all four of these bills are going to be sent to the Criminal Law Committee. That should be happening soon. And in the Criminal Law Committee, we're going to have discussions. There's other proposals. My hope is we spend some time on domestic violence. It would have to pass the Senate first out of committee, and then the full Senate, and then would have to go over to the House, where we would go through that same process. Our legislative session ends at the end of May, and it is my hope and expectation by the end of May that the Illinois legislature addresses this rapid increase in deaths directly related to domestic violence.
There is so much in our culture, in our society right now that's very partisan. It doesn't seem like this would be a partisan issue. Have you gotten any pushback?
I mean, no pushback of a partisan nature. So I think, when we talk about issues of criminal law and due process, you're going to get differing opinions, differing views, but you're absolutely right. Domestic violence, standing up for victims of domestic violence is not a partisan issue. It's something we should all be a part of. And it's a matter of getting, getting the laws right, addressing it in the appropriate way to make sure that we're protecting and empowering victims.
Well, thank you so much for updating us on things today. Please continue to give us new information as this is moving along.
greatly appreciate the time and opportunity to share this with your audience. Thank you.
Wonderful speaking with you. Have a great weekend.
You as well.
Okay, everyone. Since we did have that break before getting to kind of finalize my conversation with State Senator John Curran, I'm just going to move right into our next conversation because our next guest is already on the line here. If you have been out and about in the city and, I don't know, maybe even in the suburbs, and you see something like really small that's just making its way around and you're like, what is that? And then you realize, wait, it's a delivery robot. I'm not sure how you feel about it. Maybe some people would welcome it. Others are very frustrated right now. Ainsley Harris, who is a senior writer at Fast Company, is joining me to talk about, one, the rise of these new robots, and two, how people are feeling about them at the moment. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so where are we kind of in the evolution of getting to these robots being out on the streets?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of people have probably seen them by now. They are in neighborhoods like Lakeview, Lincoln Park, West Loop, and they're part of a pilot program that was started under Mayor Lori Lightfoot. But it was only in late 2024 that the first company actually won a license to start operating. That was a company called Coco that's based in LA. And then I think the real explosion has happened since this past fall. Another company called Serve Robotics, that is a spin out of Postmates, which is owned by Uber, has started operating as well. So now there's not just one set of robots, there are two sets of robots. And they suddenly appear to be everywhere, bringing cheeseburgers and pizza and all sorts of things to people's houses.
Yeah, I almost tripped over one. We're not used to them, first and foremost, just yet. And then two, it doesn't feel like the rollout was to the nature that we would be looking out for them.
Yeah, there hasn't, when you encounter one, it's really not clear exactly how it's supposed to operate or what it's supposed to do. You might not even know what it's for. I don't think there's been a lot of communication up front about what the robots are. And so, I think people are discovering sort of through trial and error what they are. And that has caused, I think some concerns from a lot of residents where, if you talk to the companies, which I've done, they'll tell you that they have all these safety protocols, that there's a human monitoring things who can step in if there's a problem, and that also they are designed to, for example, just stop if they're concerned that they might run into someone or have a collision of some kind. But to you as the pedestrian, that's not clear. You don't know that those protocols are in place necessarily, and you're not sure how well the robot will actually follow through on those protocols. So I think it's been, a little bit challenging for a lot of pedestrians, or, for example, if you have a little one on a bike or scooter, you don't really know how to navigate with the robot, and the robot's not exactly telling you what it's going to do next.
Yeah, it's a little confusing for sure. So there was actually a No Sidewalk Bots petition last fall. Tell me a little bit about what you know about that.
It was started by actually one of my neighbors.
Oh.
I'm in Lincoln Park, and he's right around the corner. His name is Josh Robertson, and he has two young kids. His second was, I think, just a newborn when he was out with his family one day and had kind of an encounter with one of the bots that really left him a bit unnerved. And as a result of that, he started this petition, No Sidewalk Bots. He's calling for essentially a pause on the program. Technically, these companies are, once they have their licenses, they're going to be permitted to operate until 2027 when the pilot program kind of comes to an end. And the city council would have to sort of take up what happens next at that point. And he would like us to stop the program much sooner and start collecting data and better understand whether these companies are safe and whether they are following through on sort of the promises they're making. And that petition has been quite popular. Over 3,300 people have signed. And the thing that was most striking to me in talking with him was that really a third of those signers have had incidents with the robots. So that's, feet being run over, that is near collisions. There is one man who actually did require stitches after sort of running out and running into one of the visibility flags that they have. And so, there are things happening, and it's not really clear exactly like what the recourse is, aside from at this point signing the petition.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even like when the e-bikes first started, there were plenty of complaints about them, where they were being left, how they were being used, all of those types of things. But they're still around. I mean, so it was maybe a matter of them just kind of figuring out what worked best for the city.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting is that we have been down this road before. The scooters are the most, scooters and e-bikes, I think, are the most prominent examples. And so in some ways, I think cities are a little wiser now to needing to get ahead and sort of think about micro-mobility and think about how streets and sidewalks are being used in a more proactive way. But at the same time, the companies are also a bit savvier, and I think are more on top of wanting to engage early with local jurisdictions and sort of understand what sort of policies are going to be in place and how they can shape those. So sort of a two-way street, I guess. We're sort of all more prepared, and I think we all recognize that we probably don't want to go down the road that we went down with scooters, because that was not working out really well for anyone.
It was pretty crazy for a while there. Have you spoken with aldermen in the area, and if so, or any type of lawmaker in the area, and what has been their response? What has that conversation been like thus far?
I haven't spoken with anyone yet. I think my understanding is that the companies have been in touch with the aldermen in every neighborhood where they are operating. And I think it's been really interesting to see that after we have had a bit of a backlash now in Lincoln Park and in Lakeview, that Wicker Park, which is sort of next on the expansion list, that the alderman there is taking a more proactive approach and is wanting constituents to engage earlier in the process. Because I think people are finding that once these things start to operate at scale, or, for example, when there's snow on the ground and sidewalks are already narrower, there are a lot of sort of variables here that really affect people's experience with the bots. And I think we're probably going to see more aldermen sort of step up and try to hear people's feedback before we have hundreds of these things driving around.
Yeah, before it's too far to bring back, the genie out of the bottle kind of situation. One of my first concerns when I found out that there were going to be robots, these delivery robots, is like, how do they make sure that your delivery actually gets to you? I mean, when I think about, I could see positives and negatives here, quite honestly, for the delivery robots versus a human. I mean, sometimes you don't get your meal because the human decided to take it. So talk me through that.
Yeah, there definitely, I think if you are the person placing the order here, there are a lot of advantages to having the robot make the delivery. One, as the companies would remind you, they are lower emission than having, a 2-ton car do that delivery. And they also have been more carefully designed to actually hold the food and keep it warm. And they work with restaurants through their delivery partners. Both of them work now with Uber Eats and I believe with DoorDash as well. They're working with restaurants to also kind of come up with compartments that would go inside the robots that would separate, for example, hot and cold food. And so they can really control a lot more of the experience for the end customer, more so than, someone throwing your delivery into the passenger seat of their car. And so I think from restaurants, that's what was a selling point for restaurants. I think that the customer experience is a much more positive one, theoretically. It's also less expensive. You're not necessarily going to tip a robot. And you also, the actual cost of the delivery is lower. So I think hope that on the robot companies' parts that restaurants are going to be excited about this. But from talking with, for example, Josh, who started the petition, some restaurants are also hearing that people are not so happy. Like if you live above a restaurant and you see and hear the robots all the time, that's quite frustrating to you. So, I think restaurants are also getting some negative feedback from local community members.
Very interesting here. You touched on some of the safety protocols that that these companies kind of gave to you. Can you tell me a little bit more about the steps that they feel they've taken to try to make it safe?
Yeah, I think, what they would say is like, we're not driving at high speeds. We move very slowly. Whenever there is a concern, we can always just hit the brakes essentially. And that also, they have, video where they're monitoring what they're doing so that they can also sort of learn from their mistakes. They also say that they blur people's faces. So I think some people have been concerned about, well, these things with cameras are rolling around the sidewalk. What does that mean in terms of surveillance and things like that? And, what they would say is that, it's similar to Google Maps where a car has come by, but the faces are blurred. We're not really seeing that piece of what we passed by. And, they do have at this point many years of data. So sidewalks are obviously very unstructured environments. There are dogs, there are babies, there are all these different things happening. But they, at this point, do have, a lot of data that they're able to use to sort of train their models to drive these things. But at the end of the day, it is a very unpredictable environment. And I think for the person who's walking, it is also just very hard to know what the robot's going to do next. And that problem is a lot harder to solve.
Yeah, and even in the Google example, I'm like, didn't they get sued? Isn't that how we ended up with blurred faces?
Yeah, no, I think that was a later evolution.
Yeah. Nothing speaks like a lawsuit. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Ansley. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, keep us updated on this. 2:31 right now, and we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we're going to get to Casey Cronus. She's working on a story for today that you definitely need to hear more about. There's been a lot going on in the city of Chicago this week. You've seen a lot of it from up in the air with our chopper, some of the incidents that have happened, and we're going to talk with her more about a healing moment today. Welcome back, everyone. It's just about 2:35, and we want to go ahead and bring in our own Casey Cronus, as we have seen some very troubling incidents that have taken place this week. And today there was a gun violence memorial. Casey.
Hi, Anita, that's right. And this memorial was for a young woman, 26-year-old Gabrielle Ayers, who was identified by Cook County Crime Stoppers as the victim in a horrific shooting in the Gresham neighborhood on Wednesday. Now, this shooting unfolded in the middle of the day at 1:30 in the afternoon. She was shot and killed. A man who was in the car was shot and injured. And miraculously, her 14-month-old baby, her daughter, was not harmed, which is incredible to think about when you hear that they were shot multiple times. There are some videos circulating on social media showing the horrific attack, and now there is not only a $10,000 reward being offered by Crime Stoppers for answers to her death, but also now, today, Father Pfleger from St. Sabina posted his own $10,000 reward.
I want to break down some of the speeches out there. And let's start, since you just mentioned Father Pfleger, let's start with him. What did he say? What did he talk about out there?
You know, he is asking the community to come together during this time and to stop the violence. You know, we've heard these speeches before, but this speech today, it was incredibly powerful. And he spoke directly to the community and said, if anyone out there has information, if they do not report that information, they are part of the problem too. So he really spoke directly to anyone out there who knows perhaps what happened, who was involved, and not just for this case, but other unsolved cases that we've seen as well. Mayor Brandon Johnson was also at the vigil and spoke. So was Senator Willie Preston, among members of the Chicago Police Department, who also held their roll call just before the vigil today. And a lot of community members, Anita, were out there. Dozens of people came together seeking justice for Gabrielle.
What was the community's sentiment? Because there is that element of what Father Pfleger is talking about in terms of like a code of silence. I mean, this happened during the day. This video is floating around everywhere on the internet, and there's a lot said in the comments that's not going to police.
You know, a lot of the community members here wanted to hear what officials had to say. Some of them were filming the speeches themselves at this event. But a lot of the community members, you know, they were also people who lost their own loved ones to violence. And that's what we've seen at a lot of these events, is that it sadly becomes a community where if you've lost your loved one to violence, you go out, you support others. Purpose Over Pain, the organization, they had representatives out who spoke today, and the founder of that organization lost her own son to gun violence many years ago. So you can see that there's this community, right, that you know, you don't want to join that community of having lost a loved one to gun violence, but it is a close-knit one where they do lean on each other. Now, Gabrielle's family was not in attendance at the vigil. There was a question of perhaps a member of the family or a relative would be there. Father Pfleger told me they were not there today. As you can imagine, they are dealing with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and there is a child that someone is going to have to raise now that is without a mother. Did anyone speak about resources being available? One of the things that I heard from someone when I first moved to Chicago that has stuck with me, and it comes up in my mind every time we go through a situation like this, is that that community that you just talked about, it's like having a wound that can never heal. It can never scab because there's always something else happening. I mean, just this week we watched 2 daytime shootings that affected multiple people. So for people watching that over and over, it's very difficult.
It is, and there are so many resources available out there in Chicago, in Cook County, in the suburbs for individuals who are struggling after losing a loved one. There are mental health resources, there are support groups at churches or otherwise. And so anyone listening should know that there is help out there, and Purpose Over Pain served as that Resource Center today, speaking at today's vigil. And they're a wonderful organization. We've done many stories with them before. And so there are many, many people out there who do want to help.
And another thing I think that goes through a lot of people's minds is, the recent statistics that we've had which show that homicides are going down. But there's always that question of the statistic versus the perception of safety. Do you feel like people feel safe?
I think it depends, Anita. It depends on everyone's individual situation, where they live. Of course, this happened in Gresham, which historically we've known there to be quite a bit of violence in. And sadly, another young woman, her life was taken. And as you said, with a innocent baby in the back seat. And what was really talked about today is this could have been even worse. And miraculously, that baby was unharmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the message there to people to speak up. I mean, did they give some, is there like a tip hotline? Is there a text? Is there, what should people do who want to stay anonymous if they do have some information?
You can report tips anonymously to the Chicago Police Department, to Cook County Crime Stoppers, and we will make sure to get those web addresses and phone numbers directly on our website. But that is the key here, that people can remain anonymous. And right now, police, they just want to solve this case.
I'm sure they do, and hopefully they do very quickly at that. Casey, thank you so much. I know you're getting ready for the 4 o'clock news. Appreciate you taking a little time for us here.
Thanks, Anita.
Okay. It's 2:41, and it just has been. I mean, we have actually had the helicopter up the last couple of days, and we've all remarked about some of the things that we've captured during the time period that the helicopter was up. That shooting that she just described that took the life of a young mother. There was a shooting just the day before that that happened during the day as well, again during our time here on Chicago Live, outside of a White Castle that took 2 people's lives, put another person in the hospital. No arrest in any of this. So that's 3 people whose lives were lost, multiple other people who were injured. No arrest in any of these. And that's not to discredit or to put anything on CPD, but it is to say that there are people out there who know something. And it's incumbent upon everybody to speak up if you know something to prevent more of those things from happening. So it's 2:42. Let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. 2:46, meteorologist Mark Stroud here now. Happy Friday.
HF to you. HF.
HF.
Yeah.
Just make sure you say H. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Don't want to say F to you. I want to say HF to you. That would be something completely different, right? That would be wrong. Isn't it amazing how like a letter of the alphabet is now like a in your face kind of thing? Yeah.
Happens so fast.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Just a letter.
refocus here.
One of 26, symbols.
Let's talk about WX.
Okay.
What's usually in our
WX.
rundown is WX, which is the weather.
I got to tell you, every time I write WX, which is clearly to me shorthand, which is an abbreviation for weather, people look at that and they go, WX?
Yeah.
And then they turn it upside down and go, XM. I'm like, oh, is that the satellite channel? Yeah, that's exactly what I was writing about. Yeah. Exactly.
We're on the upswing, or we have a little bit more chill weather to go?
Well, yes. And yes.
Okay.
We are on the upswing in a big way. I'm talking about 40s for Monday and Tuesday, a big
Love
thaw. This morning was the first day that we've been above freezing since the middle of January, officially at O'Hare.
We've been through it.
Now, okay, that being said, we still have a cold night tonight. We're down to about 9-10 degrees. It's going to be cold tonight. Tomorrow's going to be below average. We're going to be in the 20s tomorrow. Mid and upper 20s, so not like, a week ago when we were at barely 20 degrees and happy about it. So we are going to be in the 20s tomorrow, cooler. 30s on Sunday, so we're kind of digging out of the hole. And 40s Monday and Tuesday. We're back in the 30s Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but we're in the happy part of the 30s, And then
The happy part.
the happy part. And then we're back into the 40s again after that. So, in fact, I think in the 10-day forecast, we could have some temperatures up into the 50s.
Ooh,
Yeah.
now you're talking.
That's when that big, ugly mound of dirty snow in the parking lot of the Jewels finally starts to melt a little bit more, and you can, it opens up those other 7 parking spaces. So, yeah, we got that going for us.
And we do have a lot of big, ugly mounds of snow at this point. It's so pretty when it comes down, but this is the part where it's just dirty.
Right, the stuff that's left.
Dingy.
I don't know what is up with that. Why
Yeah.
it's like a dust magnet. It's like a
looks
dirt
really
magnet.
bad at this point in time.
There was an area, it was over by the medical district, and it was a couple square blocks that they just demolished. It was kind of getting, a bad neighborhood, and they just tore it all down, and it's just block after block. So the city would pile up the snow over there after big snowstorms. I would cut across that block in my weekly journey to come here to the broadcast center. And when it melted in the spring, you would look around and it's like, how in the heck did this get here? I mean, there'd be everything from, all the chairs and stuff that were left out, in the, for dibs. There'd be, just the most random things would be there. And it's like, someone probably put that thing out for dibs, like, maybe like a Barbie playhouse or whatever. And now it's in the middle of this field.
Oh my goodness.
I almost got a Barbie playhouse.
Well, you do have daughters, so I'm sure you bought a Barbie playhouse.
Yeah, over the years.
Yeah, you bought a Barbie playhouse or two. So let me ask you this. I did see that there were some alerts like yesterday for places that were along river streams and things of that nature.
Yeah, we have the usual suspects, the Kankakee River, the Fox River, parts of the Des Plaines. When it gets really cold and icy, they jam up. And when they tend to melt, the ice creates ice dams and then, creates some kind of almost instant flooding until those dams burst or move on. So it'll be nice to get temperatures in the 40s and 50s because that'll take that threat away a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay.
But during that process, though, as it warms up and they break apart, there's always some issues. Now, fortunately, even though some people live along the rivers there, the people that are there are well accustomed.
They've been through it.
They've been through it probably every single spring, especially along the Kankakee River, where the houses are kind of built on stilts to begin with. So, it's not. It shouldn't be a surprise for most folks.
But it has to be unnerving, though.
Well, I got to tell you, I remember my grandfather had a little cabin along the Fox River. And as a little kid, it was like up on a little embankment, and it was 25 feet down to the river, during any normal day.
Yeah.
Well, I went out there during one of these ice storms or ice jams as a kid, and all of a sudden, it was like a glacier because not only was it up that 25 feet, but I had to look up and over, so I was probably 4 or 5 feet tall. So it was like 30 feet of flowing broken ice down this valley. And it was probably about 50 feet away from my grandfather's cabin. I'm like, well, what do we do? Do we put sandbags out? Do we put concrete blocks? And they're like, no, there's not much you can do for a moving glacier. It just, unfortunately, it did retreat back. But there was really a testament to the power of glaciers. We don't have glaciers around here, but that's the closest thing I've ever seen to a glacier. It was just like that.
Yeah. Well, we certainly hope those folks will be okay, that the water will recede in time, that there's no damage or anything else. Do you think that we are
going to get cold again? Were you going to ask me that question?
Man.
I can read your mind. I know how you think. No, was that your question? I was just teasing. We're going to get cold again. Maybe not as cold as we were before when it was like, 1,000 below zero, or, wind chills of 28 below zero. Because, here's where we're at now. We're in February, and we're adding a couple of more minutes per day of daylight. So we have longer duration of the sunshine. And also, more importantly, or as importantly, the sun is starting to be a little bit higher angle in the sky. So with that more warming rays of the sun and with the longer duration of warming rays, it's harder and harder to get those super cold temperatures. Now that's going to be more true towards the end of February than it is now at the beginning of February. But seeing that we have this is the 7-day forecast, and there are those 40-degree temperatures and 30-degree temperatures. And as I mentioned, even in the 10-day forecast, it's going to be warm. So that gets us all the way through mid-February. Right. It gives us less of a window for that cold snap to occur. Now, it is going to occur. We're going to have colder weather again, but hopefully not as bad, or at least I should say the window is closing on the super cold temperatures, especially the ones that come in and hold on for a week or 10 days.
Go ahead and close the window.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Hold it tight till next year. We shall see. All right. Thank you for giving us an update, though.
You bet. Any other questions I can ask before you ask them? Answer before you ask?
Go ahead. Read my mind.
I don't even want to. That would be a very dangerous thing to do to a beautiful woman.
It could be, yeah. All right, we'll be right back, everybody. Give us 2 minutes. Okay, we're taking a look at a couple of things here before we hit the 3 o'clock hour, and we're starting there in New York. The live picture that we have been looking at really since we began here for Chicago Live today in the 1 o'clock hour. People are now leaving now that Archbishop Ronald Hicks has been formally installed there at the St. Peter's Cathedral in New York. This was just, the place was packed, absolutely beautiful mass that took place there. The readings were both in English and in Spanish. So many people that crowded in there today to witness history as someone, again, who was born in Harvey, raised in South Holland, who became the Bishop of Joliet, now is the Archbishop there for New York, leading, guiding, serving almost 3 million people, 3 million Catholics in that area. So congratulations to him. What a wonderful moment in history and for the life of the Catholic Church, and especially for New York. So again, people are leaving from that service. Let's go from New York to Minnesota, where we've been watching a live picture here just moments ago. A congressional delegation was going through this federal building here that we're looking at right now. So not a lot of activity at the moment, but just a short time ago, we saw them coming out from doing a tour. Now, just earlier today, about 2 hours ago, the mayor there in St. Paul signed an executive order that was passed by City Council to respond to ICE activity in Minnesota. This ordinance prohibits law enforcement staging or operational activity on city-owned property and restricts access to non-public city spaces. Probably sounds fairly familiar to many of you here in Chicagoland, because our mayor has done something very similar as well. Now, whether it's effective could be definitely debated, but you are seeing more mayors now take this step to try to respond to ramped up immigration efforts by the Trump administration. And for Minnesota, that would be Operation Metro Surge. Of course, for the Chicagoland area, that was Operation Midway Blitz. So we were looking at those two areas, and then we'll take you to the stock market, because we were also monitoring what's going on there today. Now, if you'll recall, yesterday we looked right when the market closed for the day, and it was terrible. That's maybe a nice way to put it. It was really bad yesterday by the end of the day. As you can see, we have rebounded in quite the fashion today. The Dow surging more than 1,000 points here, up over 1,200 points at the moment here. A lot of this has to do with technology stocks I'm seeing. Also, the S&P 500 jumped 1.9%. The NASDAQ composite was also up 2.2% here. So climbing back here at the end of the week, and that was one of the things that we questioned, if you'll recall, if you were with us around this time yesterday, really questioning, okay, are we going to see more of the red? We're going to see maybe a mixed bag by Friday, or would there be a rebound? And that's exactly what we have seen here today, and it's for many different reasons here. Of course, Bitcoin has been having quite a week, but recouping some losses today. It was just a bit of a bleak week for most of it, but the S&P 500 has been on pace all week for its worst week since last October. So hopefully today helps those numbers just a bit. One outlier here for Friday, the shares for Amazon sank 6% today, so that's not good. But for all in all, overall, you can see here that the day should be closing with quite a bit of green, and many people that are very excited to see that, especially compared to where we were at this time yesterday. All right, it's 3 o'clock. Give us 2 minutes. We're going to reset, and I will tell you about what's coming up in the final hour of Chicago Live on this week. Okay, welcome back, everyone. 3:03 right now. Let me tell you a little bit about where we're going here in this final hour of Chicago Live for the week. We're going to, toward the end of the hour, talk about ballet scholarships. There are some wonderful, super talented teens and young adults in our area, and a lot of them that are musically inclined and can dance, like no one else, are really trying to get their shot at a big scholarship this weekend. And so we're going to be talking about the opportunity that is presenting itself for them. We're going to talk about a big debate in Woodstock. Now listen, beginning of the week, we were all about Woodstock Willie. Groundhog Day, we wanted to see, well, what does Woodstock Willie say about spring versus winter versus Punxsutawney Phil? And they did have a bit of a disagreement, but now that we've gotten to the end of the week, there is a much more substantive debate that's going on. And this has to do with cameras going up in the area. We'll talk about where they are proposed to go and how people are feeling about that particular move that the city government is trying to make. We're going to check in on what's going on the West Coast ahead of the big game this weekend. Super Bowl Sunday is right around the corner. What are we, like less than 48 hours away from the big game at this point in time. But first and foremost, we're going to start here. I want to introduce you to a senior lecturer in marketing at UIC, former Fortune 200 brand manager, who's going to talk a little bit about a couple of things when it comes to products and how they are perceived both this weekend and throughout the rest of the year. Kim Moon is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start with one of the big topics of the week when it comes to products and how we emotionally connect with them maybe over time, what we get used to seeing. And that would be Minute Maid saying, well, the frozen cartons are going away.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that it reminds me of 1985 when Coca-Cola changed the iconic formula. And consumers were outraged, right? And the main reason is that we are creatures of habit and it's nostalgic. And so this brand has been around for 80 years and it's understandable why consumers are upset about it. But on the business side, the category is declining, and the zero sugar and sugar-free drink category, on the other hand, is increasing about 12%. So from a business perspective, I understand it, but consumers are very unhappy.
And I wonder, like so many other brands, like you may make a decision that seems like, hey, we need to do this for our bottom line. But if customers are repulsed by it, does it end up hurting you in the end?
Well, what's interesting again is the concentrate segment is not necessarily growing. And so that's why, from a business perspective, they are changing course. Consumers want health conscious consumers. They are looking for fresh drinks. They're looking for less sugar. And so it does make sense from a business perspective to shift course in this regard.
Okay, so RIP to the frozen cartons. There are plenty of other brands that are hoping that this weekend in particular will put them into the stratosphere when it comes to eyeballs on your products, and that would be Super Bowl ads.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Super Bowl Sunday. So it is the granddaddy of all sports events. The games have been around for 60 years, and so every year people look to watch the game. And even if they aren't sports fans, it's the halftime show. And this year, we have the first male Latin artist performing, Bad Bunny. So everyone is looking forward to seeing Bad Bunny perform. But the commercials are almost as old as the game, and they've been around since 67. And so about 48% of consumers that were recently asked about Super Bowl commercials said that they watched the game just for the commercials. So consumers are watching the game to see these commercials as well as the game itself.
And so they go all out. I mean, these are super, for Super Bowl, super expensive ads.
Yeah, so on average this year, you're looking at $8 to $10 million for a spot. However, when you look at the number of people that are watching on Super Bowl Sunday, it's very cost effective, actually. Last year, we broke a record in viewership. You had over 120 million people watching the game. And so when you look at the fact that a third of the American population will be watching these commercials, it's really a cost-effective spin.
So what are some of the things that they're doing that do become cost-effective?
So when you think about why these ads are so effective, so on average, Super Bowl commercials are more effective than traditional commercials. And so when you think about what a marketer thinks about is the top of the funnel, it's very effective in building brand awareness. Brand perception increases by 20 times as much, and buzz, creating a buzz. And so when you think of those things, if you have a new brand or if you have a new message, it is a great spend in that regard.
But if you're using like a top celebrity, that can't be cheap.
Yes. However, that's what consumers want. So they're looking for humor. They're looking for celebrities. They're looking for the animals. They're looking for children. They're looking for all of these things in the ads every year. And so when you think about memorability, having celebrities in ads increases memorability and credibility. One of my favorite ads uses George Clooney this year with Grubhub. And so that's a great example. He brings great credibility to the brand in that new spot called Feast.
Do you think, I mean, it's hard to believe that that celebrities still have that kind of pull with society today. Like it feels like people are kind of less inclined to put like credibility with celebrity these days.
So it depends on the brand and the product. So you have to have the right match. And so it is, to your point, it's a delicate balance and getting the right celebrity paired up with the right product and the right brand. So you're absolutely right in that regard, but it can be very powerful if done well. Because sometimes you see the same, like Dunkin' Donuts is back again with Ben Affleck. So it is working. quite well.
Yeah, you mentioned a Clooney ad with Grubhub. I saw a 50 Cent ad with Grubhub that had me in stitches.
I haven't seen that one, but the one with
Or I think
George
it was
Clooney.
DoorDash. I'm sorry, DoorDash, yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one, but the one that I did see with George Clooney, I thought it had great messaging. It was very simple. It was very funny, but it was very simple. Fees. They mentioned the word fees over 10 times in this spot, and the message was clear. Grubhub is getting rid of the fees for restaurant orders of $50 or more. And so I think when you're looking at how powerful and how impactful and the ROI on these ads, when you have a simple message like that, it just makes sense for the brand.
Yeah. What are some of the other ones that you've seen already that resonated with you that we should be on the lookout for this weekend?
So Instacart, that was really funny. So it is, they're back again. And when you talk about ROI, so last year they reported that they increased their sales by over 70%. And so they're back with a spot called Bananas. So they have a spot with Ben Stiller and Benson Boone singing this silly song in this retro spot. They're singing a song about bananas. But again, the message is related to this new feature called Preference Pick, and it allows you to pick your produce. So they sell about 2 billion bananas every year, and it is their number one product, but they get a lot of messages and complaints about the ripeness of the banana. So again, I thought it was very relevant and very clever and creative. So that was another spot that I saw that I really liked. The other spot, if I can mention this very quickly, is Pepsi. Pepsi is bold this Super Bowl Sunday. They have an ad called The Choice, and they are actually using the mascot for Coca-Cola to stoke the fire of the cola wars. And this polar bear is sitting down, blindfolded, and chooses a Pepsi zero sugar product. This commercial is part of an overarching brand campaign, and from my understanding, they are actually doing the taste test in the Bay Area during the Super Bowl. So I can't wait to see the response from Coca-Cola. So that was bold and brazen on their behalf.
I saw one this morning for the Clydesdales that I almost shed a tear.
Yeah, so Clydesdale, it is the OG, right, of Super Bowl commercials. And so they are celebrating 150 years. And I also love that spot. It's very emotional. You've got the heartfelt message that they continue to convey and really build the brand perception. So I'm glad to see the Clydesdale back this year.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Are there any particular types of products or types of brands that you think we'll see more of this year?
So what's interesting is that for the first time, we will see GOPs advertised. So Serena is advertising her brand Row. So that's very different this year. But again, we're going to see a lot of celebrities. We'll see a lot of AI themed ads. I think the risk with AI here is that we want authenticity. And so I think sometimes we go a little bit too far with AI. And so you're going to see a lot of polarized ads, if you will. But overall, we should be in store for record viewership and lots of great ads.
Okay. All right. Big game, big time, big lights. So we'll see which ones rise to the occasion and which ones we're going to be like, by Monday morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Take care. All right, 3:15, everyone. Our eyes will be locked on what's going on with the Super Bowl, both what's happening on the field and, of course, those ads as well. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to maybe a bit more of the action that's happening in California right now, getting ready for the big day. All right, everyone. It's about 3:20 right now. Let's go on out to the West Coast. And Amalia Roy is joining me now to give us a better sense of the excitement and the buzz ahead of the Super Bowl this weekend. Hey, Amalia.
Hey, Anita, and yes, there is a ton of excitement here. You can feel it just going around Santa Clara, seeing people around. I'm seeing people even now taking pictures closer to the stadium with it in the background. The weather is beautiful, something we can say here over on the West Coast. And I got a little tour of Levi Stadium, looking at their facilities, especially looking at player safety yesterday. And with it, you could feel that buzz in the atmosphere. You could see everyone getting everything set up, knowing that we're in those last few days until we have the big game.
Okay, now, what's the feeling you're getting? I mean, when you're in that atmosphere, when this is your assignment, how are you feeling about things?
Anita, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from near Oakland, California, so this is incredible. I am a huge Bad Bunny fan too, so that's amazing. And no, I love it when I get to have it here. The last time we had a Super Bowl in the Bay Area, I actually was not around when it happened. So seeing the excitement for me, for my family, knowing how excited everyone is just to sit down and watch it, even if they're not going to the game, of course I'm excited.
What have some of the have you been able to see, like security measures and things that they're, the steps that they're taking in advance of the big game that you can already see happening 48 hours out?
Something I've noticed is that even with everyone's movement, my movement, I've had now 2 different types of badges to get me access. One to get me right here to talk to y'all, but also another one to get me inside the stadium for a day. It's one where they are constantly checking. We know about all these security protocols, even getting into certain areas. They're checking all of your bags. It's more checkpoints than I'm used to seeing at other events, but of course we know that this is one of those heightened security events that they want to make sure that people can come safely, have a good time, and root for their favorite teams.
Mm-hmm. How are you seeing technology being used this year that maybe hasn't been used in the past?
The big thing that I feel like I've seen across industries people talking about is artificial intelligence. When I went to this health and safety tour yesterday, part of that tour, I got to speak to someone who's really been behind the NFL using artificial intelligence to look at player safety, looking at bigger changes they can make to the game, make to rules in order to make it so that players are getting injured less often. They're especially looking at concussions. That is a major injury that of course happens in football, and they're able to use all of this game data, all of this player data to then run 10,000 simulations in order to test out the best rule changes that can hopefully bring those numbers down.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of rule changes over the past couple of years, couple of seasons here. Are there some notable rule changes that people are talking about, again, now that we come to the culmination of this season?
Something that we did discuss yesterday, that it is from this AI modeling that they did have changes to rules at kickoff. The dynamic kickoff rule is something that is the product of running these thousands of simulations. And in it, because they're saying that especially kickoff is one of the highest times during plays during the game that we see concussions, that they're happy to announce that these changes are becoming more permanent because of the success they've had.
Tell me about some of the assignments you've had this week connected to the game.
Connected to the game, it's really looking at that player health and safety, because it is something that is a huge talking point, especially, like I said, when looking at concussions and looking at this player safety. And part of that, not just artificial intelligence, it's looking at the emergency preparedness. It's looking at on game day in those NFL games, the doctors, the trainers, people who are not just talking about what to do in worst case scenarios, but are actually rehearsing them so that even within that 1 in a million thing that happens that you're not expecting, that they're ready and that they can execute these. And especially in such a high energy atmosphere like we have here, it was something that was very interesting to get that walkthrough for.
Mm-hmm. And will you be there throughout the weekend?
Unfortunately, I will not be there throughout the weekend. It's not the first time I've had an event where I get to do all of the lead up, get really excited for it, especially an event like this. But no, afterwards I do have to return to Arizona. I do have to return to other duties, but I am so grateful that I got to even get a little bit of a taste of it. And of course, my family is stoked that I got to stay with them for a few days.
Oh, that's very nice as well. Now, you've got to give us, I know you're not a meteorologist, but give us a little bit of the forecast around there, because we're over here in bubble coats and you have no sleeves, so give us a little bit of what's going on weather-wise.
I have no sleeves. It is very warm out, very sunny out. I think I might have a scale that's a little messed up. I was in Minneapolis for about 8-9 days, and so anything feels warm to me. But no, it has been nothing but beautiful, sunny here, a little bit foggy, but that's just the Bay Area.
Okay, Amalia, this is going to be the hardest question of them all. Possibly, I don't know. But it has to be asked for anyone who is covering the Super Bowl. Who you got on Sunday?
Who do I have? Like I said, I'm a California girl. I have to go with the West Coast. I have to go with the Seahawks. Also, Marshawn Lynch played for them for years. He is a Bay Area guy, so I do have to throw my weight there, which is a little tough. I also went to school in Massachusetts, so I can see the pull towards the Patriots, but I got to go Seahawks.
Okay, we'll see what happens on Sunday. We have a lot of folks around here who think it might be the Seahawks in the end as well. Obviously, we were all wishing it was the Bears that were there in the first place, so no dog in the fight, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, thank you.
All right, take care. Have a good weekend and safe travels to you. She is on assignment quite frequently. Always glad that she can take a little time to chat with us as she's traveling throughout the country on behalf of the company on different assignments. How hard is that? I mean, to do the prep for the Super Bowl, all of the excitement for the Super Bowl, and then leave before it ever happens. Oh my goodness, that would just break my heart. I would be pleading, wait, whatever I need to do, let me continue to cover it for the next 2 days. Let me be there for the Super Bowl. But so goes life, you know. Beautiful view there from Levi's Stadium. It's going to be packed this weekend, and I know security is going to be tight. But, you know, it's been great that we've been able to talk to so many different reporters throughout the week about what's going on in the convention center, as fans from all over the country have just been coming for a little bit of the NFL experience, and have been able to hear from some of the players. You know, she was mentioning Marshawn Lynch, and I joked the other day when we were listening to one of the players who was talking that I can remember Marshawn Lynch in his days of saying, you know, I'm only here so I don't get fined. But they do have to show up, you know, for a little time with the press, a little time with the people before the big game. Of course, I'm sure they all just want to get back there on the field. So thank you to Amalia Roy. And let's take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll proceed on with our conversations from there. All right, welcome back at 3:30 right now. I mentioned earlier, you know, the beginning of the week, all the talk was about Woodstock Willie and Groundhog Day, but we've really come to a place of a much greater debate, much bigger than whether, you know, the groundhog sees its shadow or not in Woodstock. And this has to do with flock cameras that were approved for purchase. And I want to go ahead and bring in Woodstock Mayor Mike Turner to talk about where they would be and how people are reacting. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure to be here, Anita. Thank you.
I saw pictures of a packed house for a meeting regarding these flock cameras. Tell me your recollection of that meeting.
Sure. It was a lengthy discussion, and we had probably about 70 or 80 folks that were here attending it. And for the most part, all except for one of the speakers spoke against the flock cameras. So it's a very passionate group, and I appreciate that. That's the purpose of representative local government, is to give folks an opportunity to talk about what they think and their feelings on issues. So it was a long meeting. Total meeting went over 5.5 hours. The flock section was about 4.5 hours. So we go through the process of hearing from our police chief, and discussions among the council, listening to the public. And then we have to render a decision, one way or the other. And so that's what happened on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm. And the decision at the end of the night was?
The decision was to move forward with the flock video system installation. It was a 4-3 vote. So there were certainly council members that were not supportive of it or reluctant to support it. And then there were folks that 4 of us that supported it. The other element to the decision that's important to note is we put some conditions on the contract that were not in what was proposed. We put conditions in the contract about making sure that data ownership and access is absolutely limited to the city of Woodstock. We put a 120-day cancellation clause at the city's option only, with no impact or cost to the city. If we feel that it's not working, if there was a problem, as some of the folks in the room were fearful of, if anything happens that we're not satisfied with, we've got an ability to walk away from this contract. So I think those provisions help mitigate some of the concerns. I'm sure they didn't completely, for folks that oppose it, necessarily take away everything, but it's a comfort level for me in trying to balance between the function of the cameras and providing safety, and then also those that are concerned about elements of the flock video system.
Explain where these cameras would be.
So they would be in our downtown square. Woodstock's downtown square is this gorgeous historic square with shops, restaurants, 2 buildings that are owned by the city, our Opera House and our old courthouse. They host events inside them. And the square itself is really the heartbeat of the city. It hosts multiple events throughout the year. I mean, you mentioned Groundhog Day on the outset. I mean, we had over 3,000 people or so here on Monday. Weekend Groundhog Days get over 5,000 people attending to them. But then we have other events too, lighting of the square, Mexican Independence Day, our Pride Fest. All of those are mega events for us. And you were talking about the Super Bowl. Those are our mega events with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in our downtown. And so when you consider those, and you consider overall desire for safety within the community and within the downtown, we're going to set up the camera system to cover where our biggest gatherings are and what we think is the most risk for something happening. God forbid, we don't hope, obviously, nothing ever happens. But having the cameras serves, a bit as a deterrent, but it also absolutely serves as a tool to understand if something does happen, what happened, to make sure it helps us in prosecuting, and it helps us tracking down, somebody that may perpetrate a bad act.
Sure, and of course we have seen that in our area, and the use of cameras, how that could help. But of course, the flip side is people feeling like it's big brotherish, if you will.
Sure, and I completely understand that. Meaning, my preference would not to be to have these cameras. Let me be clear on that. And the big brother nature of it, I can understand how folks can feel that way. The rules that in the usage of it and data access, everything is only retained for 30 days, and then it is completely wiped out. Nor the city nor Flock can access that information and that video data anymore. We also have strict limitations on who can access the data if it's used for an investigation. The police officers are individually, tracked going in to use the system. So if they were to do something, if there was a bad actor that went in and looked at data they shouldn't look at, we will know that, and we will prosecute that person to the fullest extent of the law and within our policies. So with those guardrails in place, we feel comfortable that in balancing the needs of having safety, against the risks, we think the upside of the safety is substantially greater than some of the potential risks, that were talked about. And so that's, for me individually, that's one of the reasons that I voted to support it with the conditions that we put in place.
How many cameras are we talking about?
It is 6. In the flock system, it's 6. Stationed throughout our square. Flock had a diagram in the packet that when we considered the proposal, and it covers the entire square area, which consists of a park in the middle of the square, and then streets around the square, and then shops around the square as well.
So 6 was how many Flock recommended?
Yeah, they configured it. The chief worked with Flock and another vendor that we looked at to configure, coverage of the square where all of these people gather. And so they each came up with their solution for where they would recommend placing the cameras.
Mm-hmm. And what was the price?
It's for the Flock system, it's a $22,000 a year rental on a 3-year contract. And so, look, while $22,000 sounds like a huge number, in reality, in a city budget, like Chicago, of course, but then even in the city of Woodstock, where our annual operating budget is over $30 million, it's not a huge expenditure. And the bigger element is that, a little bit of additional safety and capability that the Flock camera gives us, in my opinion, is absolutely worth the $22,000 per year.
Did you speak after the vote?
I did not speak after. I probably spoke plenty. Folks would say during the meeting. We have a very vocal council, a very active council in discussing issues. The public had their opportunity. We had the police chief gave his presentation, and there was a great deal of council comment, discussion, and back and forth on that. So I didn't do anything at the end of note, but during the process certainly did speak.
And I know it was a very late night for you all. What would you say, though, to people who question if so many people stood up and disagreed with it, and then it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and they hear approved? What do you say to them?
Well, so certainly people that don't agree with the decision are going to be frustrated, and that's just the nature of representative government. I mean, we've made decisions, and all councils do, and all governmental bodies do, that aren't universally liked. We just don't do 100% approval on all votes. So to the folks that that were frustrated by it, I would say give it a chance. That we've put the guardrails in place. We heard you on the condition or the concerns that you have, and despite the vote, I share those concerns, and we will absolutely make sure that that Flock performs to the level that we demand. And if they don't, we will cut them loose. The 70 folks in the room, their viewpoint absolutely matters, and we listen to them. But the other nature of being on city council and being mayor as well is that our community is 25,500 people. So we listen to the folks that are in the room. I listen to folks that I talk to or that send emails. Obviously listen to police chief and our staff when they give a recommendation. And then the other thing I've got to do is to just use my own thoughts. And in this case, I kind of applied the concept for me of common sense, which is that if this helps prevent or solve a serious crime or crimes over the next 3 years, and if we make sure that it's used properly, then I view it as being worthwhile.
And, I'm sure you all, in preparing or even, thinking about this particular technology, did some research, maybe did some comps. Are there some other cities or towns that are using or have used Flock that you used as an example, and what was their experience?
Yeah, so we absolutely look at those things, and we also looked at the situations that folks sent to us about that created concerns. You know, where something didn't work the way it should have, or there may have been something that was compromised, and so we look at all of those things. Flock has 450 law enforcement agencies that they work with in the state of Illinois, and over 5,000 across the United States. So we're not exactly out on the the bleeding edge here. There are many others that utilize the Flock system. So we did consider, I individually did consider all those things. I can't speak for every council member, but knowing them, they each in their own way dove into all sides of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also draw a little bit of a parallel that in 2017, the city of Woodstock was the second community in McHenry County that instituted body cameras on our police officers. And we were kind of on the cutting edge of doing that. It wasn't mandated at that point. And those turned out to be incredibly valuable in multiple ways, but including, if there were issues that, a suspect had in an action they took and we had it on camera, that it really helps with prosecution. And that's a positive. On the flip side, the body cameras actually also, they're recording the officer. And so if there's issues with the officer, we have an ability to go back and look at that. I bring up the body cameras because they were a technology that we used. They weren't as controversial as Flock at that particular time, but nonetheless, they were pretty new and video based. And it was something, that we learned to use and has now become just an invaluable part of our police force and how we manage, public safety.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about public safety in Woodstock, what are your crime numbers like?
So our crime numbers are very low relative to we're at 6 per thousand. When the of incidents when the national average is something like 33 per thousand residents. And even a person who spoke eloquently the other night noted that Woodstock crime statistics are low, and that's true. We have a great police force. We're a police supporting community, and we take actions to keep the community safe. What I would say is that the ability to have a safe community is also driven by the tools that we give our law enforcement officers. Body cameras are one of those things. And tools like what we're doing with the Flock video camera is just another tool. We would much rather work to keep our low number rather than reacting to our crime rate if there was a spike by having to bring in new tools or whatever that might be. We work to keep the crime rate low and make this a great, safe community.
Yeah. Were there ever some instances that stay with you around the state or throughout the country that made this decision easier for you, that said, like, they could have used this, it would have helped them?
Yes, I actually have a few of those. So I'll speak to an incident that occurred at one of our shopping stores on New Year's Eve day, this past New Year's Eve. There was an incident inside of the store, this was at our Walmart, where a person lit on fire a set of baby cribs. They used camping propane or a liquid from back in another section to then light this fire. And this doesn't happen in Woodstock. We were, pretty horrified by this. And so fortunately nobody was hurt. Our fire department, police department did a great job of getting on scene, getting it put out, getting everybody safe. Nobody was hurt. The Walmart employees did a great job, but the person escaped from the initial scene. Well, Walmart security cameras were able to capture the person and the person's car, the alleged suspect, I should make sure I say, the alleged suspect's car. And we were able to get a color and a partial license plate from the Walmart video cameras. Our detectives then very quickly used the Flock license plate readers to enter in the color of the car and the license plate portion. That in turn allowed us, the Flock system actually was then able to identify this vehicle within the community and it helped our officers find the suspect, make an arrest, and that suspect is awaiting trial and behind bars. And worth noting that the judge actually held that person pre-trial, which is less common in Illinois than it's been. So, it was a pretty serious situation. And without the flock system that we have currently in place, which is not the video cameras, but it's the license plate readers, without that, it's possible the person may not have been apprehended or apprehended as quickly. So in that sense, it got somebody, an alleged suspect, off the street, much more quickly. So that's a very good example of how these tools can be used. I'm with you on the big brother concern and nature of this. It does have that feel. But the reality is that video cameras are very common tools for law enforcement. And you just had, the reporter on from the Super Bowl. I mean, they have massive security measures there. They're likely doing facial recognition. I don't know that for sure. We are not doing facial recognition through the flock cameras here. We are not doing that at all. But the tools are similar. And if it keeps the Super Bowl safe or the city of Chicago safe or other public spots safe, and if we can do it with a reasonable expectation of security, as far as usage of that data, then for the number of people that visit Woodstock, I think it makes sense to give these tools a try.
Woodstock Mayor Mike Turner, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, have a great weekend.
You as well.
It's just about 3:47, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. All right, it's about 3:50 right now, and the Youth America Grand Prix is the world's largest ballet scholarship competition. They are here in Chicagoland this weekend looking for talented teens. And so I want to go ahead and bring in Allison Stroming. She is a judge, and she is joined by Annie Gustafson, who is one of those talented teens, just 14 years old and participating in the competition this weekend. Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
All right, let me start with you, Allison. Tell us just about this Youth Grand Prix.
Sure. So Youth America Grand Prix was founded in 1999, and it is the largest ballet scholarship competition in the world. Every season, about 30,000 dancers compete via a 30-city tour, both in the country and international, with stops in China, Korea, South America. It is really such a huge global competition, and it is such an amazing provider for scholarships and for these young dancers to be seen.
Okay, Annie, this is your time to shine this weekend. Tell me what part of Chicagoland you're representing.
I am from Hinsdale, and I dance at Hinsdale Dance Academy.
Oh, wonderful. All right, and how long have you been dancing?
So I've been dancing since I was 3, and now I'm 14, so 11 years.
11 years. I'm sure you have learned a ton. Does a competition like this, does it make you nervous?
Absolutely. You know, before every competition, there's so many nerves, and I'm sure every dancer can say the same. But I think there's a part of it that makes me so excited and so happy that my nerves are totally canceled out by everything else, which is why I continue to do it.
Yeah, you got to focus on the talent. The nerves can help you, actually. They don't have to be nerves that disable you. They can actually help you to be even better than you've ever been. And this will be the time to be that. Allison, how do you go about selecting the right talent?
So as a judge, there's a couple of things that we do look for. One of the main things is obviously technique and the fundamentals of ballet. So correct placement, footwork, turnout, all of those elements are very important. But one thing that I also look for as a judge, and I'm sure others can say the same thing, is artistry. I think the two, technique and artistry, go hand in hand, and that is what really makes a beautiful artist. But also confidence. I know, competitions can be very stressful and sometimes scary. So we just want to see confidence as well on stage.
Yeah, I can see the confidence exuding from Annie there. She's very poised. Allison, are you a former dancer? Give us your background.
I am. So I started dancing when I was 3 as well. And I've been professional ballerina for about 12 years now. I first started at American Ballet Theater in New York, and then also danced with Dance Theater of Harlem as a principal dancer for 5 seasons. And now I just dance commercial work.
So what happens when someone is chosen? I mean, what happens from here?
So from here, there is a finals. This year, finals is in Houston in May. And that is when the best of the best come and they will compete. This is when dancers from all over the world come. And it's really such a huge celebration of dance. And from there, dancers are selected for scholarships, training programs. Some of the older dancers are even offered company contracts. So it's really exciting.
Wow. So this can be life-changing.
It is. It really is. It's crazy to see how many leading dancers now in so many companies around the world, from American Ballet Theater to Royal Ballet to Mariinsky Ballet, they've all started here at YGP. So it really is a huge stepping stone for these dancers.
And so I would think, similar to like a lot of the, talent competitions that we see on TV, that even if you don't get the top spot, the exposure could help you as well.
Absolutely, for sure. And one of the things that I love to see is the dancers coming back year after year and seeing how much they've grown and they've blossomed every year. It really is a huge opportunity for them.
Annie, is this your first time competing in this?
No, I have been competing at YGP since 2022. So.
Wow. All right. What do you learn like from year 1 to year 2? How are you building on what you're learning each year?
So a great part about YGP is that they also give you some things to work on. You get notes after you perform, which helps you to know what you should work on for the next competition or the next year, which is totally helpful. I have learned just through even being on the stage how to handle my nerves, which was mentioned earlier. And also, like she has also mentioned how to really include artistry as well as dancing, because dancing, you can get so caught up in, I guess, the technique and being so perfect that you can forget to perform and just enjoy it. So I guess I've really tried to kind of perform over the years rather than being so caught up in my mind.
Yeah. Sometimes the performance is so good you might overlook some of the technicalities. The judge is like, well, still see him, but yeah, that's an optimistic way of looking at it. Really great being able to chat with you both. Annie, I am wishing you all of the best this weekend and beyond. I can tell you're a superstar already, and so keep shining. Allison, thank you so much for what you do in helping to mold the next generation of wonderful dancers.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck. All right, everybody. 3:55. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back to close out the show. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:58 right now, and we have certainly appreciated you being here throughout the week. We've seen the numbers growing. We appreciate the streaming growing as well, and we hope that you'll be right back here with us from 1 to 4 p.m. on Monday. Now, of course, before we get to Monday, there's a big game on Sunday. Not sure who you're pulling for. I love the story surrounding, Mike Vrabel and Drake May. Also love the story of Sam Darnold. I'm going to go with the Seahawks. We'll see if I'm wrong by Monday. We'll have plenty to talk about then. Whatever you're going to be doing, I hope that you'll have a safe weekend. And I'm going to turn you over to Brett Bugansky and Leslie Moreno for First at 4.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Right now at 4, Indiana is picking up speed to try and persuade the Chicago Bears across